Can a simple bell make someone feel hungry? This is explained by Pavlov's classical conditioning theory. Let's understand it simply. The question may ask like this. Give a brief account of Pavlov's classical conditioning theory of learning. Briefly point out its educational implications. Or what is Pavlov's classical theory of learning? How can a teacher utilize the knowledge of this theory in teaching and learning situations? Justify. Pavlov's classical conditioning theory. The classical conditioning theory of learning was propounded by Ivan Petrovich Pavlov. He was a Russian physiologist. This theory, besides being known as Pavlovian conditioning theory, is also known as learning by conditioning and conditioned response theory. The main interest of Pavlov was in the study of gastric secretion of dog. He won the Nobel Prize for his work on the digestive process in 1904. Pavlov presented the idea of associating physiological responses. He revealed, on the basis of experimental studies conducted by him, that if an artificial stimulus is repeatedly associated with a natural stimulus, the artificial stimulus modifies the organism's behavior. In this way, the organism shows a conditioned response to the conditioned stimulus. This is what Pavlov called the classical conditioning theory. Pavlov's experiment. Pavlov conducted his experiment on a dog. He kept the dog hungry for 24 hours. The hungry dog was given food. On seeing the food, the dog secreted saliva from its mouth. Here, secretion of saliva is natural response and food is natural stimulus. Now, Pavlov linked the ringing of a bell with the food. He would ring the bell before giving food to hungry dog. Initially, dog would not secrete the saliva on hearing the bell ringing, but after some time dog began to associate the ringing of the bell with the food. He learned that the sound of the bell was a signal of the food arriving. The secretion of saliva would begin with the ringing is artificial stimulus. After some time, Pavlov stopped offering the food to dog. The bell would be rung but the food was not offered. Even after, the secretion of the saliva would begin with bell ringing. With the increase in trials, the interval between the ringing of the bell and secretion of saliva began to narrow and the secretion of the saliva began to increase. Components of classical conditioning: natural response, unconditioned response. Natural response is inborn. It is the unintentional reaction that occurs when a person is triggered by the unconditional, natural stimulus. In this experiment, the secretion of saliva is a natural response. Natural stimulus, unconditioned stimulus. It is the one that automatically triggers a response. It is that stimulus which produces a specific reliable response without any pre-training. In this experiment, the food is a natural stimulus. Artificial stimulus, conditioned stimulus. It is a neutral signal that, after being paired with the natural stimulus, trigger the artificial, conditioned response. In this experiment, the ringing of the bell that had become a mask of the food arriving was termed as artificial or conditioned stimulus. Artificial response, conditioned response. It is a learned response to the neutral signal. In this experiment, the related secretion of saliva was termed as conditional response. Educational implications of classical conditioning theory: developing good habits. They lay emphasis on association. Social spirit, like a sense of discipline. Cultivating good habits like cleanliness, respect for the elders can be developed in the students with the help of this theory. The bad habits like telling lies, stealing, etc. can be removed by associating them with reward and punishment. Helpful in removal of superstitions. Certain superstitions like sneezing and passing the cat across your way etc. can be removed by this method. Helpful in adjustment. The conditioning method helps the child in adjusting in various types of environments. The beginning of this takes place with the adjustment of the child in the classroom conditions and school circumstances. Later he applies all this to make adjustment in real-life challenging situations. Development of attitude. Conditioning may help the child in breaking negative attitude and promoting attitudes. In short, good and bad habits may be developed in the child through this method of conditioning. Proper and good habits can be formed by providing the education of positive behavior and values to the child. Helpful in language learning. This theory is based on associative linking. Conditioning is much useful in language training, particularly Sanskrit, Urdu, Punjabi, etc. language. The correct use of the language makes the child conditioned for the use of that particular language. Helpful in discipline. This theory helps in establishing discipline in the school. Discipline can be maintained by associating them with punishment. Elimination of fear. Some psychologists make use of this theory in removing the sense of fear prevalent among the students regarding some subject. Motivating the students should be given rewards. This will definitely motivate them to learn. Elimination of bad habit, because of fear of punishment. Some phenomena of classical conditioning generalization. It implies that the responses to similar stimuli are also similar. Discrimination. The learner learns to discriminate between two stimuli. Extinction. He had made it clear that if the dog had not been given food after the conditioning had taken place, that is after the ringing of the bell, the reflex response of salivation would have presently ended or become extinct. Spontaneous recovery. It is meant that if on a conditional response having become extinct the conditioned stimuli is presented, the conditioned response spontaneously recover after some time. Repetition. For artificial, conditioned response, repetition is very essential. Example, ringing of bells repeatedly. Motivation. For conditional response, motivation is required. Intensity of stimulus. There is a positive relationship between intensity of and response of stimulus. As much the stimulus will be intense, so much will the process of conditioning be simple to accomplish. Inhibition. Pavlov, during this experiments, observed that while conditioning a response, a new stimulus is introduced, it will inhibit unconditioned the conditioning of the response. In order to eliminate the possibility of external interference, Pavlov conducted his experiments in soundproof rooms. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share for more videos.